The current coronavirus epidemic has wreaked havoc on the finances of almost everyone around the world. And the chances are that it's done a real number on your finances too. And that can raise some issues about how child support is affected by the current COVID-19 pandemic. If you're no longer working, do you still have to pay child support in the same amount? Well, you're under a court order to pay child support at a given level. And until the court changes that order, neither me nor any other attorney is going to tell you that you can disobey that court order. However, I will say that the court is unlikely to hold you in contempt if your income completely dries up and you can demonstrate that you didn't have any other resources that you could pay child support from. But something that you need to keep in mind is when the court asks what other resources you had available, they're going to look at what you have in your savings account. They're going to look at, do you have the ability to borrow money? Could you put money on a credit card, take it on a home equity loan? Could you borrow money from family members? These are all questions that get asked when somebody brings an enforcement action for child support. So what are you supposed to do if you are ordered to pay child support at a level that is much higher than you can currently afford while you're not able to work? Well, you need to visit with an attorney right away because that order needs to be changed. And chances are we're not going to be able to change it really quickly, but we can get something on file and we can ask the court to make that reduction go back in time to the time that you filed. And by showing the court that you took your obligations seriously, that you respected them enough not to ignore the order, but to try to do something about it, you greatly reduce the chance that the court is going to hold you in contempt if you're doing everything that you can. But one thing that I would really encourage you to do that a lot of people don't try is reach out to the other parent, because even if the two of you don't get along, they most likely are going to understand what's happened to your income. And chances are that their income has been affected too. And maybe by reaching out and working together, you can come to some sort of agreement about what you can do right now to make sure that that child continues to have a place to live, that that child continues to have electricity and water and food available to them. Now, I do want to make sure when I say that you want to be sure that the child has a place to live. Right now, the Supreme Court has halted all evictions, so nobody's going to get evicted, nobody's going to get foreclosed on right now. But that doesn't mean it's not something that's going to happen later, and it's certainly not something that you want to put off and not worry about. You want to take whatever steps you can do to address that right now. So I would also ask you, well, what if your child's living with you and you don't have the finances because you can't work, your child's not in school, maybe your work is canceled, maybe the other parent is in an industry where they're actually working extra. If they're in the medical profession, if they're in the grocery store industry, if they're doing mail supply orders, there are industries that are working much more than they ever have before. Talk, reach out, visit with them. If you cannot come to an agreement, you want to, again, talk with somebody in the family law industry and see if this is something that we can address or not. Is this a permanent increase in income? Something to keep in mind when I say reach an agreement, I don't want to give the impression that a handshake agreement or a text message agreement between you and the other parent is going to change the order of the court. The court has ordered child support at a certain level, and nobody except the judge of that same court has the ability to change it. However, if you get a written agreement from the other party to pay less, that's certainly going to be something that the judge is going to look at. And the judge is also going to look at the efforts that were made to try to reach an agreement when it comes time to enforce that order. Some other monetary questions that come up with this epidemic. We've all heard about the stimulus bill that has been passed. If you are behind on your child support, the Attorney General's office is most likely going to seize that stimulus payment and provide that to the other parent of your child. If in the past you have had the Attorney General's office hold tax refunds, this works under the same principle. Now, if you're the parent who would be receiving child support, I wouldn't count on it just because mistakes happen. And maybe the Attorney General's office doesn't know they're behind. Maybe half the staff at the Attorney General's office is working from home and trying to homeschool their children, and they can't notice and track that. I wouldn't count on it, but be aware that under the current system and under the current guidelines, that's what it looks like is going to happen. You might want to give my office a call and see if the courts are operating right now. We are in a landscape right now like quicksand, and every day the situation is a little different. So if you've got some questions that I haven't addressed, it's impossible to address every potential thing that comes up. If there's been a significant occurrence in the last day or 2 days or 3 days, you're thinking maybe this information's outdated, call my office. We're still open. We're working remotely. We want to do our part of social distancing and flattening the curve, but we are available to take your calls. You can schedule a video appointment or a telephone appointment and find out how the law is going to apply to your specific case.